Hello. So last time I tried to explain what derivatives actually are, and if you're still hazy on the concept, send me an email and I'll try and explain it better. You could go through all of calculus, solving derivative problems without actually even knowing what a derivative is, but you're not gonna like it if you don't know why you're doing these things. And you're gonna be kind of like a computer program, just taking in problems and spitting out answers. And life of a computer program is not that much fun. That's probably why they crash so often. But anyway, let's do some of these derivative problems. And there are a bunch of rules that they usually tell you, but I'm gonna do the problems, and as I do the problems, I'm gonna explain the rules, because that's probably what you'll have to do on an exam. You'll be given a problem and you'll have to figure it out and then use those rules as you go along. So let's say we had the function y equals negative x squared plus 3. And it said find dy over dx. And this is just another notation on how to write derivatives. It's saying find the derivative of x with find the derivative of y with respect to x. That's what it's saying. So to do this, we should break this down and do this one at a time. So I'm going to write this down again. Y equals negative x squared plus 3. And so to do the first term, let's do one term at a time. For this term, we need to use what we call the power rule. So I'm going to write that down, the power rule. And the power rule just basically says that x to the n prime, or the derivative of x to the n, equals nx to the n minus 1. So in this, right now, in negative x squared, n is 2 right now. So n comes down and it becomes, don't forget the negative sign, we have negative 2 times x, and then it's x to the n minus 1. So it's negative 2x to the first. And then we have plus. And the derivative of any constant is 0. That's another rule, but I'm not going to write that down here. So the derivative, just remember that the derivative of any constant is always 0, so it's plus 0. And so we can simplify this. I'll make this look better by saying this equals negative 2x. And that's it. So let's do another one that's a little more complicated than this, but not that much more complicated. So let me erase this and do that. And so let's say they said s equals 5t cubed minus 3t to the fifth. And then they said find s prime. So again, with the product rule, like we did earlier, we'll do one of them one term at a time. Let me write this down here again. 5t cubed minus 3t to the 5. So n in this term is 3, so we keep the 5 outside. It's 5 times. We bring the 3 down, because it's nx to the n minus 1, so n is 3, so 3t to the n minus 1, 3 minus 1 is 2, so it's 3t squared, minus, and then we work with this term, which is 3, let me put brackets around this so it doesn't look so confusing. So it's 3 times, and then n in this term is 5, so we bring that down, that's 5t to the n minus 1. N is 5, so n minus 1 is 4. And so we can further simplify this to 5 times 3 is 15, so it becomes 15t squared, minus 3 times 5 is 15 again, it's 15t to the 4th. And that's it. But you can also I can factor out a 15t squared. So you can either leave it like this, or if you want to just write it in a better form. And some professors may actually want you to do it like this. You can pull out the 15t squared and then just write 1 minus t squared. And you can see if I multiply 15t squared by 1, that's 15t squared. And then I multiply it by t squared, that's 15t to the 4th. So either of these should be okay. Some professors want it in this way. But both of these are correct. So let's do one more that's a little more complicated. But again, not that much more complicated. So let me erase this. Give me 1 second. Okay, so let's say we had r equals 1 over 3s squared minus 5 over 2s. And then we were asked to find dr over ds. And this is the same as dy over dx, but right now we have r and s, so it's find the derivative of r with respect to s. And this is just one of the symbols, one of the ways to write it. So the other way is to have the prime thing right there, and another way to write it is to write f prime of x in that way. And there are a couple more, but these are the most common ones. So anyway, let's we have 1 over 3s squared minus 5 over 2s. So we can s squared in the denominator, we can move that up and make that s to the negative 2. So let's do that. We have 1/3 times s to the negative 2 minus 5 over 2 times, and over here it's 1, so we make it s to the negative 1 and bring it up, because it makes it easier for us to use a power rule in if we move the thing up and make the exponent negative. And this is exactly the same as this thing up here. So now we can use a power rule on this. So this equals 1/3 and then times, and then n in this case is negative 2, so we bring negative 2 right here, negative 2, and then it's negative 2, it's nx to the n minus 1, so it's negative 2s to the negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3. And then we have minus, and then on this side we have 5 over 2, so that stays as 5 over 2. And then we have times s to the negative 1. N over here is negative 1, so we get negative 1 times s, and then it's to the n minus 1, so it's to the negative 2. And I'm out of space, so I'm going to erase this, and I'm going to move up there. Okay, so we have this so far. Now we just need to simplify it. We've used the power rule, and this is actually the derivative of the function, but it looks really messy right now, so let's simplify it. 1/3 times negative 2 is negative 2/3, and that's s to the negative 3. We can put this back down, so we can make it s cubed down here. So negative 2 over 3s cubed. 5 over 2 times negative 1 is negative 5 over 2, so we have negative 2 over 3s cubed minus negative 5 over 2, and then 1 negative, and then you have s to the negative 2, so that can go back in the denominator and become s squared. And so we can still further simplify this. Since we have two negatives here, we can make it a positive, so it's negative 2 over 3 s cubed plus, because the two negatives make a positive, 5 over 2s squared. And that's the simplest form. I can't see any other way to make it any simpler. So this would be your final answer. The power rule, rather, is going to be the rule that you're going to use the most often in Calculus 1, at least. So it'll be a good idea to memorize this, and it's not that hard to memorize. X to the n is nx to the n minus 1. Once you get a hang of it, you'll be able to do these problems a lot faster. And also remember that if you're finding the derivative of anything that's a constant, 5 prime, it's always going to be 0. So keep that in mind. If you have any questions, you can email me at utamatchboxman@gmail.com.